this was the photograph, the first photograph that you made when you had moved to London. The band that you see on it, Joy Division, was one of the reasons why you at all went there. And you fixed a shooting appointment near your home, so you didn't know the place very well, so you just, okay, we meet at the subway station Lancaster Gate, and you photographed them going down into the tube.
Yeah, but you know, I just moved. My English was appalling, but I went to see Joy Division was one of the reasons I moved to England, and they were playing in London 10 days after I arrived. So I went to the concert and I managed to get backstage saying, I'm a photographer from a Dutch magazine. And could I make an appointment to take a picture? And they were, you know, they had a lot of press, but they had no hits or anything. So they were still eager, I guess, to do something for the press. So they had said yes to me, and they said, where? And because I just moved, I didn't know London at all. So the nearest tube station to me is the only place I knew. It was Lancaster Gate. So I asked them to come to Lancaster Gate. I met them outside the tube station, and it was November, and they were standing like this, smoking. They were very English boys. They had a shirt on and just not a very thick coat. Because you don't dress for winter, because that's always a surprise that it comes in November. So we stand there, and I'm me being shy and Dutch. I just want to shake their hands, and they stood like this. They wouldn't shake my hand. So that was a bad start. But then I asked them to do this, to have this idea of going into unknown pleasures, because that was the title of the album, so I took it very literal. And I used the people to symbolize their song. Yeah. Or their music.
Go somewhere which is unknown, to an unknown place, an unknown pleasure, and that was the idea of it.
Yeah. But that was very often people don't use the persons to visualize, to help them visualize the music. So that was new. And
you used that afterwards, later in the clips also, huh? This.
I made a film after he died in '88, but nobody wanted to publish this picture because I showed it to a few magazines. You know, look, I photographed Joy Division, and they couldn't see them. That was their comment. Yeah, and then of course half a year later, the person who looks back here was Ian Curtis, who committed suicide.
The one who,
yeah, and then suddenly. You know, my photograph seemed to be like a premonition of his death, which it wasn't, because, like I said, my English was so bad, I had no idea what he was singing about. I just felt, you know, I felt the urgency and the beauty of the soul in the songs, but I didn't really understand it. And we didn't have conversations. Some people say he's a friend of mine. He was not, because I could not hold a conversation in English proper. But the band actually were the only ones who liked the photograph at the time. And they published a version of this on a single sleeve at the time, on a Belgian label called Sordide Sentimentale. And they printed 1,586 copies of it. So they're very rare. But it was the only time they ever used a picture of themselves on any publication. Then they invited me to Manchester a few months later to hang around while they made a video for Love Voltaire's. Yeah, that was for Love Voltaire's Apart, and that became their breakthrough single. Yeah. But by the time they released it, Ian had already committed suicide.
This is a few weeks before his suicide. Yeah. And so that was also your breakthrough internationally. I mean, you had
I hate to think that was my breakthrough, but I think. It did make people notice, but I already did covers for the Enemy by that time. But by some coincidence, the Enemy had gone on strike for 7 weeks while he died. So it was the next Enemy that actually was first published after the strike had that picture on the cover and this inside. But it was weeks after his death. But it became a very important issue because it had been on strike for 7 weeks.
And you did. The film on this whole story was 28 Control. That was his first feature film on the story, on the suicide of, which ends with the suicide. The coming up of the band.
You're giving a lot away now. You're giving a lot away. No, it's the love story of Ian Curtis, and of course Joy Division is part of that, and it goes up till the end. Yeah.
And then, of course, you mortgaged your house in London to finance the film, and you lost the house, and that was somehow closing a circle because you moved back to the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Not entirely, but quite.
Yeah. I mean, somebody yesterday had an interview and he said, "It's a shame that Control flopped so badly for you." And I was like, "No, Control was a really successful film. I just had a very bad contract."